Royce Watkins from Your Black World, and I wanted to talk for a second about um, what I saw recently with Iyanla Vanzant and her show "Fix My Life." It's a show on Oprah's network, and she basically brought on some brothers who had a lot of kids with a lot of women. I want to say there were six men who had 87 kids with 50 different women. One guy had 17 of those babies' mamas, if you want to call them that, with 34 kids. And it's interesting because when you really tie that back to just sex and the power and responsibility of sex, we have to hit a couple things. Number one, I don't think that there's anything wrong with enjoying and appreciating sex. I think that sex is not only an incredibly natural thing, but it's actually the most powerful force that we know of, one of the most powerful forces in the universe, because that's the foundation of the creation of all human life. So, human attraction, sexuality, all those things, you can't run away from them. You cannot outsmart God. So, let's stop trying to do that. Now, here's where I think an interesting conversation has to occur, and the conversation has to be very, very real. Um, First of all, when you see this brother, he's an extreme case, right? Most brothers, most men do not have that many kids with that many women. But there are a lot of guys out here that have a lot of kids with different women. This sort of what they call, maybe they call it ghetto polygamy, if you want to call it that, of just kind of having the different women or whatever. It happens a lot. I mean, I had a child and wasn't married, so it can happen to anybody, basically. And here, the thing about it, though, is that we have to really talk about the culture that generates this baby mama itis. Uh, if you go back to mass incarceration and the war on drugs, that's where I really believe the problem became much, much worse. You've always had the Rolling Stones. I mean, you've always had men that kind of roamed around. And if you really study evolutionary biology and compare the nature of humans to the nature of mammals, one thing you'll find is that human beings are basically more sophisticated versions of mammals. We operate on the same apparatus that many mammals operate on, but we just apply it in a more sophisticated way to different contexts. So the same urges that animals feel out in the woods are very similar to the urges that we feel when a man lays next to a woman. It's not that much different. So stop thinking that you're not an animal, because you are. If I chopped you up and cooked you, you would taste like chicken, basically. So the fact is that we're all part of that animal kingdom. We're all one of God's creatures. We're all connected to the rest of the animal kingdom, and so we have to deal with these urges in a natural way, in a way that makes sense, but also in a way that helps us to understand the responsibility of our sexuality. Now, to talk about men, one concern that I have is that we do have a culture now that's being mass promoted to us by mainstream media that kind of gets into this whole idea of being a pimp and a player. If you listen to most hip hop songs, in the first maybe 60 seconds, you'll hear some song about how many women I got. Lil Wayne had a song where he said, "I wish I could f every girl in the world." You cannot for 1 second pretend like these consistent marketing messages, which are bam, 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 being slammed into the subconscious of young black men over and over again, are not having an impact on the way they perceive their relationships. Now, you tie that to the fact that we live in a generation, in an era, and I don't know when this era is going to end, where because of mass incarceration, because there are so many black men who are locked up in the criminal justice system on some level, you have competition now. You have more women than there are men. And so, therefore, what happens is, if you look at economic theory, The Economist wrote a very good article about single black women and the theory in terms of how women, their behavior changes when there's competition for a man. Women are willing to do more to keep the man. They're willing to fight to keep the man so they don't have to be alone. In fact, one of the women on Ayana's show said, I didn't want to be alone. That's why I slept with this guy who had all these kids. And it's ironic, because if a man has that many kids, you're going to be alone. Because, number one, he's probably going to abandon your kids like he did all the others. And number two, he's so spread thin, you're really not getting a complete man. You are truly getting a fraction of a man. Not even a piece of man. Not even half a man. You're getting like 1/17th of a man. That's not a man. I don't even know what that is, but that's not a man. It might be a penis, but that's about it. And so, basically, The Economist showed in this article that there was a 2.1% decline in the percentage of black women who get married for every 1% increase in the incarceration rate. Now, let me repeat that. There's a 2.1% decline in the percentage of black women who get married for every 1% increase in the incarceration rate. So, if you want to know why, as part of the new paradigm, which I started with Minister Farrakhan UConn and Cornell West, etc. last year. If you want to know why we talk about wealth, education, family, and community in an interlocking framework, it's because they all connect. That if you don't build proper families, then it's very difficult to build a proper community. If you cannot build proper families and a proper community, it's very difficult to build wealth, because the way you structure your family is a very important part of your wealth building process. Nomalanga Mushali Moses with Healthy Black Woman talks about this all the time. She's from Botswana, and she says in Botswana that, building your family is an important part of passing wealth to your children. So if we got all these broken families, daddies that are sticking around just long enough to fertilize the egg, or mamas who don't want the daddies around because they didn't have the daddy at home, you're not going to be able to build. Every generation, you're just starting over. The kids are making the same mistakes as the parents, and it ends up becoming a complete mess. So let's talk about this a little bit more for the brothers. Okay, here's the thing. When you're having kids, or when you're sleeping with women, first things first, there is a culture that tells you that every time a woman looks good and she offers you the chance to sleep with her, you're supposed to take it. And I know it's hard to walk away from it, but I'm telling you, um, gluttonous behavior, undisciplined behavior will always come back and bite you in the ass. It will always come back and ruin your life if you are not careful. There are lots of women out here that are not as nice as they look. There are women that will hurt you, just like there are men that will hurt women. There are women that will hurt men. I got in trouble for even saying that before, but I don't care. I'm going to keep saying it because you need to be protected. You need to be smart. And if you don't know the importance of keeping a decent woman by your side, then there's not much I can do for you other than let you learn the hard way. I've had friends come and talk to me and say, man, yeah, man, I got this girl pregnant, man. I don't even like this girl. And I'm like, well, if you didn't know her, why were you sleeping with her? Because you do understand that when you sleep with her, you're putting your life in her hands. You're risking an unwanted pregnancy. Now your child's being raised by a woman you don't even know, don't even like. You're risking STD infections, and in fact, we should talk about that for a second. You're risking all these other problems, and now you're broke because the child support courts don't give a damn about you. They will lock your butt up in a second and throw away the key. And a lot of brothers are living in the margins. They're dodging the cops, dodging everybody because black men can't get jobs. Black men have the worst economic and educational situation of any group of people in America. And then on top of that, you have this baby mama situation that's sucking up all your money. So don't put yourself in those stupid situations. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy women. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. I'm not judging that. But I'm saying be responsible with where you put your penis. Don't go planting your seed in any woman who looks good because it can put you in stupid, bad situations. Now, this brother with all the kids, I mean, to be quite frank, I think the brother has an addiction, maybe a mental illness or something like that. I think that when you talk about that from the female side, now I'm talking to my daughters out here. I'm talking to not just my daughters that I raised, but the daughters who are listening to me right now. The fact is that when a man has other children, you can learn a lot about a man from his relationship history. Listen to him. Don't get swagged off your feet in the first couple of dates. Take the time to listen to this man tell you about his life. If every ex-girlfriend is a bitch in his mind, if he thinks every ex-girlfriend is a bitch who abandoned him and did him wrong, then guess what? You're going to be a bitch too. He's going to eventually conclude somehow that you did him wrong too, because there's something going on internally that's leading him to feel this way about all the women that he's interacted with. Number two, if he's not taking care of his kids, then he's not going to take care of yours. And what I tell my daughters is that if a man is not good enough to be a father of your children, don't even give him your phone number, because the power of love, look up oxytocin. Look up what oxytocin does to a woman's brain. When a woman has an orgasm, her oxytocin rate levels spike to 500%. Did you even know that a woman, and I read this, there was a Stanford professor that was giving a great lecture that I watched on YouTube recently. He said that when a woman has an orgasm, her brain shuts down. Literally, every part of her brain shuts down except for the part where she's having the orgasm. So that means that if you let this man in your space and you let this deceitful, nasty, dirty man come into your life, and you let him touch you, you let him swoon you, you let him do you up, hit your spot, give you whatever it is that you want to get in the bedroom, you're putting your life at risk, because at that point you're completely vulnerable in many cases. I mean, many psychologists will say that a woman in love is about as vulnerable as almost like an infant. Not to say that women can't be empowered when they're in love, but most people do stupid things when they're in love. And if you look up the psychological research, it says that love is powerful. So if you're thinking that you can run around and get your pimp game on, and you let people tell you like, oh well, men are acting like this so women can do it too. I mean, I don't care, I'm not going to judge you, but I'm just telling you, I don't know if that's a wise decision for you. I think that decisions that you make in your life should be ones that you don't regret later on if possible. And so if you don't regret the choices you make, then I have nothing to say. But if you're walking from one regretful situation to the next, then it might be time for a reevaluation. The third thing I will say to women, and I'm saying this to men too, really, um, is you got to look at the underlying story behind all these babies mamas situations. There is an STD epidemic going on unlike anything you would ever believe. Think about it like this: when you hear somebody talk about the fact that they're HIV free, that they got an HIV test, a couple things. Number one, a lot of people will talk about a test that they took a year ago. Not that they even show you the paperwork, but they just tell you, "Oh yeah, I'm HIV free. I'm fine. I'm fine." The question is, well, how many people have you slept with since you took the HIV test? A lot of these people will have slept with 4 or 5 people, maybe more, depending on how much they're trying to get their pimp game on, since they took that test. Number two, when you ask people if they took a test for HIV, how often do you ask them, well, did you get tested for everything else? Because you know, HIV is not the only disease that you can get. I mean, you got herpes, gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, all these other things that can literally rot out your womb and cause you to be unable to ever have children and possibly even kill you from cervical cancer. So, my thought here is this. Here's the interesting contradiction about life, Mother Nature, all this stuff. You have certain men, you have the alpha males, you have the males that are successful, that have the money, maybe they're tall, good looking, maybe they're famous, maybe they're the guy's an athlete or whatever. You're naturally going to be attracted to him because that just is what biologists say. Women tend to find most appealing strength, forms of strength, whether it's intelligence, height, muscles, money, power, whatever. Barack Obama became the sexiest man in America because he became president of the United States. I think when he was broke, he wasn't nearly as sexy. So, these men are attracting women. Now, some of these men, unfortunately, have been raised in a culture that breeds them to believe that they got to get their pimp game on. That the more women you have, the more you fill up your Rolodex, the more successful you are as a man, as a human being. So, that means that when you run into some of these men, some of them, not all of them, some of them are going to have an insatiable appetite for the female vagina. Well, not that there's a male vagina, but you get the point. So that means that if you're so swoon, you see that guy, that Idris Elba lookalike, walk in the room, and you're like, "Ooh, I want to get with him. I'm gonna give him whatever he wants. I'm gonna do whatever he wants." You got to understand that there is a huge shadow game going on. And when I say shadow game, what I mean is there's a whole lot happening behind the scenes that you may not even know about. He may literally, I've seen this, he may literally have 40 other women that he's interacting with on some level, maybe 50, 40, 30, 40, 50 women he slept with that year other than you. And when you sleep with that man, whether you wear a condom or not, people act like condoms protect you from everything. They don't. People have oral sex and all that. They don't wear condoms when they do that. You can catch diseases that way too, in case you don't know. Um, and so this man has got could have all this action going on in the background, and you have to ask yourself, do I want to be a part of that? Do I want to be a part of the emotional stress of trying to form something with somebody who is already occupied? A lot of the best men that you see, a lot of the best, not even just men, but people that you meet are already caught up in situations. They already have other stuff going on where they can't be fully devoted to you. Do you want to risk your health? Do you want to be stuck with a child with somebody who's got a bunch of kids? The fact is that there are always signs, there's always things out there you can look at, things that you can do to avoid those situations. And I'm just encouraging you to try to use your head. And what I just tell my daughters is I say, look, there's a point in the love process that is so powerful, so natural, so instinctually rooted in your amygdala and your brain stem to the core of your psyche that you can't even control it. There's a point where you fall in love, you have that first touch, a woman sucks up a man's pheromones, and it's literally like taking a drug. So think about it as if you're running into a crack dealer who's saying, you're having a bad day, smoke some of this, it'll make your bad day better. Well, you shouldn't decide you don't like crack after you've hit the pipe. You need to be smart enough to say no, thank you, get away. I don't want anything that you're giving me right now. And I think that when it comes to love, when you know somebody's bad for you, when you know somebody's not going to bring good things into your life, when you know that there's going to be a huge price to pay for that temporary pleasure that you're going to receive, you have to treat it like a drug and just say no. That means not. Don't take that first phone call. Don't go on that one little date. Don't even give a person the time of day, because that's what a good salesman does. Most of the guys that have a lot of kids, that have a lot of women, they're naturally good salesmen. They give you the winning smile. They know how to say the things that are going to make you feel good. They know how to get their foot in the door. There's a foot in the door technique, they call it in sales, where it's like he's not going to ask you for sex on the first date. He's going to say, well, how about just have coffee with me? Can I just call you? Or he's going to call you and you have a few conversations. Next thing you know, nature takes its course, and then before you know it, you're in a bad situation. So I say that if you are trying to put your life in a place that is going to give you what you want, let's say you want family and children and a happy life and a good relationship, make sure you strategically plan for those things, because happiness does not happen by accident typically. If you allow your life to kind of be sort of built on one short-sighted decision after another, then you're not usually going to find your way to happiness. Happiness has to be planned, and it requires some degree of discipline, which means sometimes the things that feel good to you may not be good for you. So avoid the temptation to always go for that immediate gratification, and pick the man that's worthy of you. If you're a woman, if you're a black woman, pick a man that's worthy of you, and don't let these lame dudes roll up in your house and sleep with you or whatever, and then walk away, because that's just kind of what's going to happen. Say now, on the flip side, last point to the brothers, look at these stories, learn from these stories. If you're not in that situation already, then think about your own sexuality. Think about how you can still express your manhood, still enjoy life, still enjoy sex if you want, enjoy women. I'm not judging that, but do it in a way that's not going to leave you hurt, embarrassed, diseased, or broke. That's the key. Because I'm telling you, child support courts are a bear. Child support courts will eat through your money and leave you with nothing. And I know guys that had a bunch of kids in their early 20s, they're 45, 50 years old and still can't get ahead financially because they can't keep up with all their child support obligations. So wealth building and life building comes from family planning. Family planning is a critical part of that. Plan your family appropriately. Do what a black man does. What a real black man does. A real black man takes care of his kids. A real black man plans his children. A real black man finds a good woman to love. He doesn't just think he's going to be a player and a pimp and define himself by how many women he's got. I'm not saying that's always wrong. I know that there are natural instincts that lead you to think a certain way or whatever, but at the same time, there's a point where a real man is responsible. And the same thing is true though for women. A real woman is responsible. So don't go trying to put all your problems on the back of a man. You chose that man. You chose to let him in your body. You chose to let him into your life. So anything that comes out of that is also your responsibility as well. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.